querida compañera, mi compañera, querida compañera, mi compañera. Ella está más linda que la luna llena y brilla más fuerte que el mismo sol. Es del movimiento la compañera.
Bienvenidos and welcome back to this exciting segment of San Diego Barrio Stories and Latino USA TV. This is Dr. José Leyba, bringing you stories from our barrios, from our neighborhoods, from our cultura, through the lens of individuals that have lived that experience and are working to promote our culture and to preserve our history, which has been ignored in the history books. Today, I'm very proud to be at el Centro Cultural de la Raza, a very long story about this icon in the Chicano movement that started in the 69 and 70. And here we are with the brand new executive director, una niña bien inteligente, Ana Hernández. Welcome, Ana. How are you today?
Thank you, Jose. I'm doing great, Nina. It's been a long time since anybody called me that.
So tell us a little bit about your background, where you came from and how you got to be the executive director of this icon in Chicano history here in San Diego, California.
Yeah, it's a bit of a long and winding story, but to me, it makes sense, right? So as we were talking earlier, yo soy venezolana. My family is from Venezuela, Trinidad, so very Caribbean kind of roots and origins, no? My parents, we migrated with my parents when I was in my late teens. So I barely finished high school here, did university and that kind of thing. Your question is about how I ended up at Centro in sort of, I guess, in a way. My work for most of my life has actually been in social justice movements. So gender-based violence, racial justice, immigration justice here in the US, because, as I said, I've been here since my late teens. And so for me, the work started, as it does for a lot of us, in terms of very personal experience, right? So I'm a survivor of violence, I am very much, still to this day, considered, an immigrant in this country, So these kinds of things very much influence my lived experience and the work that I want to do, right? In terms of like just survival, you start to figure out some of the narratives. And then for me, it became and still is more important than just survival. It is a matter of like changing the systems that sort of impose these violences and discriminations and oppression on us. And so that's been my life work in some way or another for decades now. So I most recently came from Chicago. I was running a labor center there. Our people were actually almost exclusively undocumented immigrants. And mixed families. So, a little bit of everything. I was in Chicago during both the Trump administration and COVID. And so we were...
As everyone was, right?
Those were...
The challenges.
Those were like incredibly just challenging times for our community, for the work that we were doing, but I met some extraordinary just organizers and community members and so on and so forth. So that is my most recent experience before coming to San Diego.
Well, let's talk a little bit about that background, because I think you brought up a very important point about gender discrimination and gender violence against women, because it's kind of like a taboo in our culture. I'm so glad that you mentioned that, because as a former educator, it really hurt me so much when I had one of my schools was the number one school for domestic abuse calls to the city of Phoenix.
Wow.
And that's just back in the early 90s when there weren't as many resources and it was very hidden. And so me and my staff, we always made it a point to try to do whatever we could to educate the parents and provide support for them. So thank you for that and for sharing that. I think it's really important that our audience understand that we need to stop violence against women, and part of social activism is that. So thank you for your work with that. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, and yes, thank you for the pause and for highlighting that. Like to this day, the work to, for gender justice essentially is what it is in terms of like being not just free from violence, but also, being having rights respected and honored, and also being provided the same opportunities to thrive and to explore and to express and to create as that we've been denied for generations. Is like that the totality of that is part of my life's work, right?
Excellent.
So
I love it.
yeah. So when I got to San Diego, right, initially it was because I actually wanted to come to a border town. And I have some people who are very dear to me here in San Diego. So I was like, all right, I'm going to go, just visit for a while. And then it suits me that they're in a border town. So, and then I wanted to stay is the long and the short of it, right? And so when I decided that, I was like, okay, I need to find work. And immediately Centro was referred to me by some community organizers that I was, meeting at the time. When I started looking into who is Centro Cultural de la Raza, like the fact that like the origin story is about liberation. It is about identity. It's about pride. It's about just the full expression and the full opportunity to be who one is. That was what attracted me. And then at the time, this was last October, when the current iteration of the Israeli-Palestine, the attack by Israel on Palestine was initiated, Centro was one of the few places that I could see that was hosting events and speaking of, where people could speak and dialogue about this and debate about this publicly.
Right.
And that was really important to me because that signals a lot in terms of what the politics are, what the story of this institution is, and who the current board and leadership and constituency is. And so I was like, I want to be a part of that if I can.
That's great. And we have to give a shout out to the board of the Centro Cultural because it takes a lot of time for volunteers, but I know that they give their heart and soul to keeping the operations here. And now they've made a very smart decision by bringing you in as executive director. I know we've had a good time to get to know each other, and just know that here at San Diego Barrio Stories, you have friends that will help you. I know that you're going to be working on some restoration of these beautiful murals. Many of them were painted many years ago. So tell us about the role of the Centro. What kinds of activities do you have here, and what do you see for the future of the Centro?
Yeah. Oh my gosh. So I'm still learning like the full breadth of activities and work that Centro does, because I've only been here 3.5 months.
Right.
And like, you would think that I know by now, but
that's a crash course. I mean, you can handle it. I know you can. I can sense that passion and fire in you. So
I feel like each week, if not each day, like I meet a new person who is working on something here, or a new, community member who has an idea to present that they want to bring. So like, the work is growing and evolving and taking shape. The kinds of things that are taking place right now. So some are long-term in terms of like Danza Azteca, for example, like they hold practices and lessons here, as well as like we have, some African drumming and percussion classes and workshops that have been taking place here for a very years. And I hope they stay. I love just being in that space.
Right,
if you stay long enough, you'll catch one later on today. And then one of the things that I really appreciate about Centro, and as I understand it, like this board was very intentional in terms of bringing this dynamic back. But we have an open community. It's called the Arts Advisory Council. And what that is, it is a group of community members who they meet once a month. It is an open meeting to the public, and community members come and they bring their proposals. I want to do this at Centro. Either I want to lead this class, or I want to do like this exposition of my work, or can I try this new market? Whatever it is, like anything that the community can think of, they can present it to the Arts Advisory Council, who simply assesses, okay, does this serve the mission of Centro? And if it does, then we will do what we can to like help you out with logistics. And that is a lot of the programming that happens here. And so I love that system of, it is community driven, it's community, talking to each other about the things that should be taking place here. And that's how it's scheduled.
Okay.
And so, so we continually see like, evolving and emerging ideas and activities and stuff like that here. So
So let's talk a little bit about the restoration of some of these murals, and because this was an old water tower building, it was taken over by the Toltecas Yaslan, and now you are tasked with preserving this history. So tell me what the plans are briefly, and we'll have one closing statement.
Okay. I like the be brief closing statement.
Un poquitito.
Yeah. So one of my like priority sort of tasks at this point in time, right, is restoration and upgrading of like the infrastructure
Okay.
as well as like the historic murals that we have both inside. This is Dualidad. And outside of the building. It's a cylindrical building. As you said, it's an old water tank, so it's very circular. And we have murals on the outside that go the whole way around. So those also need care and restoration, as does Dualidad. And so that is one of the first tasks is preserving the, all of the artifacts and the art and so on that we have in the building, as well as just upgrading the infrastructure.
Okay.
You asked me for a statement about.
Well, as we begin to close, I want to encourage all our audience to donate here to the Centro. You can go online. What's your website address where folks can donate if they wish to help out?
Thank you for doing my job for me. It is because, I often need, support in that way. Centroculturaldela.raza.com. Yes.
Okay, centroculturaldela.raza.com. And you have a tiendita here. We encourage individuals to come here, buy some things, support the artist here, right?
Yes, definitely, definitely. So, donations do, by and large part, go to programming. They will, of course, also start to go towards some of the upgrades in infrastructure, just preservation and that kind of thing that I was talking about. But yeah.
So for individuals of my generation who grew up with this and we understand the significance, what would your message be to young people about culture, art, history, and what the Centro is doing here?
Yeah. So that's often a complicated question for me. So for the young people, and the ones that I've gotten to meet in community here who are working on their own their own creative pursuits and that kind of thing, I'm like, come to Centro because like we have so many people who are still with us and who've been with us for decades who like really want to talk and engage, and at the same time. My interest is in drawing like all the community members here to also create and do in your own way. To me, culture is a very dynamic thing. It gives us roots, but it's also like the engine and the capacity for change and growth and just equity, that we have in the long terms, like you were saying, in terms of addressing issues of violence, again, gender-based violence kind of thing. Those are issues of culture too, right? So yeah, we have to acknowledge what is and what was, and also like just do the work of like talking and creating and brewing up new ideas to create change in the future too.
Well, thank you so much. We really appreciate you opening your doors to our team from San Diego Barrio Stories, Latino USA TV. We certainly want everybody to donate. Go to the website, come out here, support, get your kids involved in Cultura, because this is a historic water tower. Now they have a new executive director that will take them to the next level. Muchas gracias, Ana.
A ustedes. Thank you so much for the invitation.
Likewise. This is Dr. José Leyba signing off with San Diego Barrio Stories, Latino USA TV. Download our app. Just go to Latino USA TV and you can get us on Apple, Amazon Fire, Roku, and we're on all the social media sites. Muchas gracias. Until we see you again. Adios.
Querida compañera, mi compañera, querida compañera.